What was the hardest thing? Like, so you said walking over rough terrain, like the just taking footsteps. I mean, people, it's so dramatic and painful in a certain kind of way to watch these videos from the DRC of robots falling.
Yep.
It's just so heartbreaking. I don't know. Maybe it's because for me at least, we anthropomorphize the robot. Of course, it's
Every one
also
of those.
funny for some reason. Like
Oh yeah.
humans falling is funny. For I don't. It's some dark reason. I'm not sure why it is so, but it's also like tragic and painful. And speaking of which, I mean, what made the robots fall and fail in your view?
So I can tell you exactly what happened on I contributed one of those. Our team contributed one of those spectacular falls. Um, every one of those falls has a complicated story. I mean, at one time the power effectively went out on the robot because it had been sitting at the door waiting for a green light to be able to proceed, and its batteries, and therefore it just fell backwards and smashed its head against the ground, and it was hilarious. But it wasn't because of bad software, right? But for ours, so the hardest part of the challenge, the hardest task, in my view, was getting out of the Polaris. It was actually relatively easy to drive the Polaris.
Can you tell the story? Sorry to interrupt.
No,
the story of the car. People should watch this video. I mean, the thing you've come up with is just brilliant. But anyway, sorry. What's
Yeah, we kind of joke. We call it the big robot little car problem because somehow the race organizers decided to give us a 400-pound humanoid, and then they also provided the vehicle, which was a little Polaris, and the robot didn't really fit in the car, so you couldn't drive the car with your feet under the steering column. We actually had to straddle the main column of the and have basically one foot in the passenger seat, one foot in the driver's seat, and then drive with our left hand. But the hard part was we had to then park the car, get out of the car. It didn't have a door. That was okay. But it's just getting up from crouched, from sitting, when you're in this very constrained environment.
First of all, I remember after watching those videos, I was much more cognizant of how hard it is for me to get in and out of the car, and out of the car especially.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually a really difficult control problem.
Yeah.
And I'm very cognizant of it when I'm like injured for whatever reason.
It's really hard.
Yeah. So how did you approach this problem?
So we had you think of NASA's operations, and they have these checklists, pre-launch checklists and the like. We weren't far off from that. We had this big checklist, and on the first day of the competition, we were running down our checklist. And one of the things we had to do, we had to turn off the controller, the piece of software that was running, that would drive the left foot of the robot in order to accelerate on the gas. And then we turned on our balancing controller. And the nerves, jitters of the first day of the competition, someone forgot to check that box and turn that controller off. So we used a lot of motion planning to figure out a sort of configuration of the robot that we could get up and over. We relied heavily on our balancing controller. And basically when the robot was in one of its most precarious, sort of configurations, trying to sneak its big leg out of the side, the other controller that thought it was still driving told its left foot to go like this, and that wasn't good. But it turned disastrous for us because what happened was a little bit of push here. Actually, we have videos of us, running into the robot with a 10-foot pole, and it kind of will recover. But this is a case where there's no space to recover. So a lot of our secondary balancing mechanisms about like take a step to recover, they were all disabled because we were in the car and there's no place to step. So we were relying on our just lowest level reflexes. And even then, I think just hitting the foot on the seat, on the floor, we probably could have recovered from it. But the thing that was bad that happened is when we did that and we jostled a little bit, the tailbone of our robot was only a little off the seat. It hit the seat. And the other foot came off the ground just a little bit. And nothing in our plans had ever told us what to do if your butt's on the seat and your feet are in the air.
Feet in the air.
And then the thing is, once you get off the script, things can go very wrong, because even our state estimation, our system that was trying to collect all the data from the sensors and understand what's happening with the robot, it didn't know about this situation. So it was predicting things that were just wrong. And then we did a violent shake and fell off in our face first out of the robot.
But like into the destination.
That's true. We fell in, we got our point for egress.
But so is there any hope for, that's interesting. Is there any hope for Atlas to be able to do something when it's just on its butt and feet in the air?
Absolutely.
So you can, what do you?
No, so that is one of the big challenges. And I think it's still true. Boston Dynamics and Animal, and there's this incredible work on legged robots happening around the world. Most of them still are very good at the case where you're making contact with the world at your feet, and they have typically point feet relatively. They're balls on their feet, for instance. If those robots get in a situation where the elbow hits the wall or something like this, that's a pretty different situation. Now they have layers of mechanisms that will make, I think, the more mature solutions have ways in which the controller won't do stupid things. But a human, for instance, is able to leverage incidental contact in order to accomplish a goal. In fact, if you push me, I might actually put my hand out and make a brand new contact. The feet of the robot are doing this on quadrupeds, but we mostly in robotics are afraid of contact on the rest of our body, which is crazy. There's this whole field of motion planning, collision-free motion planning. And we write very complex algorithms so that the robot can dance around and make sure it doesn't touch the world.
So people are just afraid of contact because contact is seen as
it's still a difficult control problem and sensing problem.